Hey, what's up, Yantaraj? You are on with Yan. Hey, what's up, Yantaraj? Welcome back to the new episode of On with Yan. I am so happy to be here with all of you, and I thank you all for being here with me and continuing to tune in and to listen to these episodes. I hope they bring some value to your life. I know they bring a tremendous amount of value to my life, and I just hope you continue to tune in. Let's get right into the follow-up episode. So last time we had Pistons Marketing Chief Executive Alicia Jeffries, and she spent some time with us talking about the incredible story that she had, everything that she overcame in order to become the person that she is today. And although her story is unique to her, I think there are a lot of similarities in her story that we can connect to and we can take from into our own experiences and maybe have a different perspective on how we may handle certain situations or circumstances that life brings our way. I think a very cool outlook that she talked about is just being able to go through something incredibly tough while having a vision of the future in front of her. She mentioned when she got the diagnosis that she received, she said that she felt like there's so much more that she had to do and she didn't do it yet. She had so much she had not accomplished, that feeling is what she went after. And one of those things being she wasn't a mom yet. So she had this diagnosis over her head, over her family, over her life. And one of the main things that she wanted out of life was to be a mom. And so when something happens that essentially turns your world upside down, shakes you, makes you feel like you are completely out of control, and in a diagnosis like that, you really don't have any control. You're kind of left to how are you going to handle this mentally, emotionally, because everything else is in the hands of medicine and really out of your control. And in order to maintain a positive mental attitude and to pull herself through that, she kept a really strong vision of what she wanted when this was going to be over. And she talked about, how do I get to the other side? Because there's always another side. There's always what's after this. And is after this something positive, or is after this something that's not as exciting to look forward to? So she made sure to have a very clear, exciting vision for herself that she was going to pull herself through this so she can experience that exact vision. And for her, it was being a mom. And not only is she a mom, but she's also a wife and she's an executive. And so she has to balance all three parts of her life in that manner, which is so commendable. Because I think for women, I think more often it becomes you either become a mom, or you become a wife, or you become a career woman. And it's very unusual and very uncommon to see a woman be able to balance all three of those things. Be able to balance being a mom, as well as a very successful career woman, as well as being a wife. That's very tough to do. And in my personal experience, I have a very limited amount of interaction with people that have been able to do just that. But not only was she able to do that, she also had to do that through something so tremendously scary and exhausting and emotionally taxing. And she did it. But I think the key part of this is she maintained a very clear vision of what she wanted to do and what she wanted to have after this was all over. And as she mentioned going into it, she thought it was going to be such a quick, okay, let's just get through this treatment and I'll be good to go, a few months, a year maybe tops. And she had to go through this process for an incredibly long amount of time, which is, looking back on it for her, probably crazy how fast it all went by. But to me, I think it's pretty crazy that just having a clear vision of what you may want to get to helps you gain control of how you feel in the situation that you may be going through. And it's so amazing to see that people go through hard things and people go through much more tough things than most of us that listen to this podcast episode, and they get to the other side of those things. And they don't do it just because, oh, this is what happened. They tend to take responsibility for, what do I want this to become? How do I want this to end? What do I have to do to get to the other side, as she said? And although, as I mentioned, a lot of us won't experience that same thing, but we have hardships in our lives. Everybody does. And regardless of the magnitude of the hardship, I think the lesson would be for all of us is, what do you have to focus on to make sure that you understand how to get yourself to the other side? And sometimes you have to find different ways to gain that control back, because it isn't easy. I thought it was really interesting that she talked about, at the end of the day, it's on you. At the end of the day, no matter who's by your side or who's helping you or who's supporting you, which all of those things are great and necessary and very helpful, but at the end of the day, it's on you. It's your responsibility on how you're going to let yourself handle whatever situation you might be in. And I think it's very similar to any goal that you set. If we take a step away from hardships and trauma and learning to get through something, how do you figure out your responsibility? How do you make sure you understand that you're responsible? So whether you start a new diet, whether you start a new habit, whether you start a new activity, I think it all comes down to that personal responsibility aspect that actually Dr. Christina Tracy mentioned in our very first podcast episode. So I think it's very interesting that she also said, you may have all the support in the world, and the support might be great, and the support might be everything that you need, and support might be everything that most people don't have, but at the end of the day, it has to be you that gets you through. It has to be you that pulls you through and out, and it has to be you that figures out what's going to work for you to get you to see the other side. So having the clear vision, I think, is one of the big components of that conversation. And then the other part that she mentioned and we talked about was the personal fortitude. And she also mentioned how important it is for her to instill that in her daughters. And that mental strength and mental ability to see past or not let yourself just give up when everything seems so bad and everything seems terrible. That personal fortitude to get yourself through whatever it might be is, I think, another very valuable key component to the conversation and to everything else that we may be going through in our lives. And the personal fortitude, I looked this up, and I looked up, the word fortitude and what it means, and I would just like to take a second to read that to you. So fortitude is defined as the strength of mind that enables a person to encounter danger or bear pain or adversity with courage. In other words, when something tough happens, what do? Do you encounter it and say, okay, I have to do this, this, and this to make it through? Or do you kind of say, this is going on with me, I guess I'll just sit and kind of see what happens? And this is the part I mentioned where I said, don't just go through it, grow through it. You have to learn how to grow through a tough experience and a tough thing, because if you don't, it might keep happening because you didn't get to learn that lesson, or you really don't get to build your own personal fortitude. Tough things happen all the time on a daily basis in everybody's lives. And tough things and failures and all of these things happen all the time to us. But it's up to us to determine how we're going to handle that. And that strength of mind is so important. And Tony Robbins has this up on his website, and I think this is just, I actually don't know where it originally came from, but on Tony Robbins' website, there's a thing called the 4 C's of mental fortitude. So the 4 key elements of the mental fortitude. The first one is challenge. The second one is confidence. Then it is commitment. And then it is control. So those 4 are the 4 C's of mental toughness. And the first one being challenge. So the challenge is the hardship that you face. And the way that you face it, or the way you come towards it, or the way you view a challenge that comes your way has a lot to do with how you're going to either succeed or fail through that. So the first part is being able to see the opportunity that you can have from that challenge. Instead of seeing, like, I have this challenge and this is going to be terrible, this is all bad, there's not a single good thing. You want to be able to flip that and find the opportunity in that challenge. That ability is a very tough thing to do, because when something bad happens, we essentially go into everything's bad, everything's terrible, everything's horrible, this is going to be the worst thing ever. But your ability to pause and find what good thing can I get out of this? What good thing can happen? Maybe the lesson is this, and this that I have to learn. What is that lesson that I have to figure out, learn it, and sit with? And that sometimes is very, very, very tough to do. Almost every challenge that we face in whatever area of life that we have is an opportunity for personal growth. Now, something I learned very recently is character development does not always have to feel good. Character development can oftentimes be very messy and tough and exhausting, and it's not all, oh, I'm going to read these books and set these goals, and I'm going to work on these goals, and I'm going to feel really great every single day because I'm hitting the mark on my fitness goals and my health goals. Sometimes character development, sometimes personal growth can be incredibly tough and emotional. And sometimes although it might not seem like that's the best thing right then, sometimes that's the best way to learn something. So the first part of that, personal fortitude, mental toughness, is challenge and being able to see and figure out what opportunity, what positive thing can happen from all of this. The second C is confidence, eliminating self-doubt when it comes to a situation that is a very hard situation that you might be going through. You have to be able to have confidence when it comes to the situation that you might be encountering. And the hard part about this is situations that we encounter a lot of time don't really have or don't really showcase a direct control that we may have over them. And it's up to us to be able to find where we can have control of what we do. And maybe that's something that, going forward, you're going to do something different. But you have to be able to be confident. You have to be decisive. You have to be able to take action. And so once you figure out the positive thing in your challenge or situation, the next thing is being able to have certainty in how you are going to handle it. I mentioned this in the episode with Alicia Jeffries, and I said fear, false evidence appearing real. You have to be able to not let your fears dictate everything in your life. And someone said this, I can't remember who it was, and they said, don't take counsel from your fear. It's an important part because that fear cancels out your confidence. It cancels out the certainty that you may have had, so you really need to be mindful of the fears that you're letting come through in your mind. When you find yourself in a situation that doesn't allow you to see opportunity easily or clearly, when you find yourself in a situation that seems like everything is bad, it is very difficult for you to make sure you're not letting any of those fears enter your mental fortress. And it's important that you take a step back, and it's important, I've learned, that you figure out first the challenge, then where the opportunity is, then you manage letting those fears come through. That's an important part. So gaining your confidence back, finding certainty, helps you cancel out those fears. So don't even let those fears penetrate your mental fortress. So first C is the challenge. Second C is confidence. So challenge into opportunity. Find the confidence, find where the certainty is. And then the third C is commitment. You have to find the first two, and then you have to commit to whatever decision that confidence allows you to make, and you have to commit to that. And you have to commit to it for a long time. It's not just I will do this now, but then that's that. You have to commit. A simple example is when you begin to integrate some workouts into your lifestyle, you have to commit to something that is sustainable, and you have to commit to something that's going to take you from where you are to that other side, to where you want to be, to your goal. So you have to be able to commit and commit over time. And so when you integrate a workout regimen into your lifestyle, you have to be able to carry that out continuously so that you can get to that other side. So the third C is commitment, and you have to be able to commit to whatever you decide that is the right thing to do for you. And then the fourth C is control. You have to take ownership. That responsibility word that I've mentioned earlier, you have to find control, and you have to understand, you have to find the control, but you have to find the responsibility and understand that is your responsibility, and that's how you gain that control back. It's very easy to find blame, and it's very easy to blame things on your situations rather than on yourself. It's really easy to put blame on your experiences because of other variables instead of saying, I had that experience because I did this. I had this experience because I did this, this, and this. And it's very hard to get yourself out of that mindset, especially when you're in a situation that makes you feel like you're in a terrible spot. You have to find a way to control life instead of letting life control you. So a lot of experiences and things that go on in our life have a lot to do with the choices and decisions we make, the cause and effect of what we do. And because of that cause and effect, those responsibilities end up being ours. But oftentimes it's very difficult for us to acknowledge that those things are our fault. And we resort to instead putting blame on everything around us for that experience rather than saying, okay, this happened because of me, and here's the part where I either learn my lesson or I experience this lesson over and over again. I'm going to say that again. This is the part where you either learn that lesson or you have to experience that lesson over and over again. Just to recap, we have the 4 C's of mental fortitude. So when something's tough, you gotta get a hold of these 4 C's. First one being the challenge. What's the challenge? And find the opportunity in your hardship. Find the good in the bad. There's always bad. There's always going to be something that's wrong. There's always going to be something that is not smooth, not good, not up to your standard. There's always going to be something that makes you feel like it's all wrong. But there's also always something good. So find the good. Whatever it is, you have to find it. You may have to dig. And as Shaun T says, you may have to dig deep, but you have to find the good. You got to be able to do that. So the first step is find the positive. Then you have to gain some of that self-confidence. You have to face your fears. You have to face your fears. As I said previously, don't take counsel from your fears. You've got to figure out what those are. You have to eliminate the fears. You have to find things that you're certain about and go at it from that angle instead of trying to maneuver something out of fear. The third one is commitment. So don't give up to the thing that you decided that you were going to do. And the fourth one is control. So find the responsibility. Find what is happening and understand that life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. So you have to figure out what part of that experience was your fault. And you don't have to tell everybody this whole thing, but maybe for the sake of your own peace, you may have to understand that you have fault in the situation and you have to acknowledge it and you have to learn from it. So if we take working out as a simple example, the first challenge is I have to work out. I don't like that and I don't want to do that. The good in that is if you work out, you feel better. If you work out, you have more energy. So you have to find the good. The confidence part in that is you may be having self-doubt of, I can't do this. This is way too tough. I've never exercised before. I've never done this before. How am I going to be able to do this now? And then finding a way to overcome that, which start with something small and sustainable. Start with something that you can do and then slowly raise that bar. You don't have to start at 0 and then go all the way to 100. Incrementally build your own confidence. There's nobody that says you cannot do that. Build your own confidence incrementally with do the 5-minute walk. Do the 7-minute walk. Do the 7.5. And sometimes this process isn't a linear process. Sometimes you go to 5 minutes. Sometimes you can't handle that day and you got to go back to 4. And maybe next time you go to 7, but then you go to 6:45. This part may feel messy. And this is the thing that I mentioned, that character development part that I said doesn't always feel great and bright and perfect and like you're hitting the mark every time. Sometimes it feels like nothing's working, nothing's going my way. I feel like in this example, maybe I can do 5 one day, but then man, I can't do it again. So this is the part where you incrementally have to figure out ways to increase your own confidence and eliminate your self-doubt, eliminate the fear, and just go after it. the third C, the commitment part for this workout example, is you have to commit to doing those 5 minutes or whatever you may decide. And sometimes, as I said, maybe it's 4. But as long as you commit to doing something, that's better than just stopping. So if you committed to yourself, I'm going to do these 5-minute walks 3 times a day, and you get up on a Friday and you're like, oh, I don't feel like it. You have to do at least something to keep yourself in the routine. So maybe do 2 minutes. Maybe do 2 minutes a little bit later, and then maybe finish it off with the 1. But don't just go to, today I'm not doing anything. So commit yourself fully. It may not always be a straight shot from 5 minutes to 10 to 15. It may feel messy, it may feel like it sucks, and that's okay. And then the last part is taking control and taking ownership. So if you committed to something and then you fall off the wagon, you have to understand that you had that experience, so you felt like you couldn't do it because of you. You felt like you weren't going to be able to accomplish it because of you, not because of anything else that's around you or surrounding you. It's because you stopped. And that's the responsibility part that nobody wants to hear about. The responsibility has to come from you, and you have to be okay with saying, that was me. And so the things that you experience oftentimes have to do with the lack of responsibility you're choosing to take on. And when you don't take that responsibility on, you tend to keep having that same experience. So for this workout example, understand that the wins that you have are also your fault, and the losses that you feel are also your fault. And you can't just claim the good without the bad. So if there's bad, that's your fault too. So maybe the good things is great. That lets you know what you should keep doing. The bad things should show you that wasn't it. Don't do that. And that's the part that you have to be aware enough to say, okay, that was me too. So if you stepped off the wagon, you didn't do your workout, that was you too. So that's your reminder to get back on it. It shouldn't be a, well, I guess you can't do it message. It should be a reminder for, hey, you slipped up, let's go. And so that personal fortitude that Alicia talked about has been on my mind a lot, and I think it's been a very important thing. And as I mentioned to you, out of that conversation and overall, I think the message that has been very prominent to me is character development, personal development, and growth aren't always smooth and fun and exciting and bright and happy. Sometimes that character development makes you feel not so great. It makes you feel not motivated. It makes you feel like you can't do something. It makes you feel like Alicia said, when you're laying in that bed and it's all you, and you're just counting the 60 seconds over and over and over again. Because with all the support in the world, it's still on you. And so that's where I think those 4 C's of mental fortitude come in. And I think those are a really great way to check where you may be missing the mark in your own life and in your own experiences, and then work on it from that perspective instead of just saying this all sucks. I hope that you found something from this episode that is valuable to you. I know these conversations, these reflections, these people that I've had the privilege of speaking with really opened my mind a lot up to a lot of these things. And the other really cool part is I get to talk to my husband about it and bounce some ideas back and forth. And a lot of these things also come from him. So thanks to you, husband. And one more thing that I forgot to, I don't think I ever mentioned this before. Shout out to Nick DeStefano from If Walls Could Talk. He is my music guy. He has been putting in work for me. I so appreciate you, Nick. And if you guys have a chance to check out his band, If Walls Could Talk, I think you can find them pretty much on any listening platform. Again, thank you so much to all of you for tuning in and listening and being a member of the Entourage. I can't stress that enough. You're not just a listener. You're a member. And I want you to continue to push forward, move forward, and I hope this brings some value to your life. Thank you again for being here. Peace out.